My sister-in-law waited in our driveway for hours after birth and tried to take baby from car seat. My family says I'm overreacting to her excitement. After 4 years of marriage, Blake, 30M, and I, 28F, are expecting our first child in 2 months. Blake has an older sister, Gertrude, 34F, who lives with their parents about 30 minutes away from us. Gertrude has never been married and doesn't have kids of her own. Before I get into what happened at my baby shower last weekend, I need to give some background about Gertrude. She's always been what I'd call intense. When Blake and I first started dating 6 years ago, Gertrude would constantly ask him about our relationship status. She'd call him multiple times a day wanting to know where he was and who he was with. Blake explained that she'd always been protective since their dad left when Blake was 12 and Gertrude was 16. Their mom, Janet, 58F, had to work 2 jobs to support them, so Gertrude basically raised Blake for several years. Gertrude works as a bookkeeper at a small accounting firm, but she's been trying to start her own business for the past 3 years. She's always talking about different ventures, selling handmade jewelry, starting a food truck, opening a pet grooming service. None of these ideas ever go anywhere because she gets distracted by new projects. Blake has lent her money multiple times over the years, usually around $500 to $1,000 at a time. She always promises to pay him back but never does. The issues with Gertrude started getting worse after Blake and I got engaged 2 years ago. She insisted on being involved in every aspect of our wedding planning. She wanted to approve the venue, the menu, even my dress. When we politely declined her input, she started making comments about how I was changing Blake and turning him against his family. She showed up uninvited to my bridal shower and made a scene when she wasn't included in the wedding party. I had chosen my 2 sisters and my best friend from college as bridesmaids, which seemed reasonable to me. At our wedding, Gertrude gave a speech that we hadn't approved where she talked about how she'd always been the most important woman in Blake's life and how she hoped I understood that their bond was unbreakable. The speech went on for about 10 minutes and made several of our guests uncomfortable. Blake spoke to her afterward, but she acted like nothing had happened. When we announced my pregnancy 4 months ago, Gertrude's behavior became even more strange. She started buying baby items without asking us what we needed or wanted. She'd show up at our house with bags of clothes, toys, and furniture. Most of the stuff was either the wrong size or not something we would have chosen. When I mentioned that we were planning to breastfeed, she bought formula and bottles anyway. She said she wanted to be prepared for when she babysat. The problem is, we never asked her to babysit. Blake and I had already discussed that my mom would be our primary childcare help since she's retired and lives closer to us. Gertrude seemed to assume she'd be taking care of the baby regularly, which made both of us uncomfortable given her history of not following through on commitments. 3 weeks ago, Gertrude called Blake and asked if she could plan my baby shower. I had already started planning it with my sister Amy, 26F, and my mother-in-law Janet. We had booked a venue, sent invitations, and ordered decorations. Gertrude became upset when Blake told her the shower was already organized. She accused me of deliberately excluding her from important family events. Blake suggested that Gertrude could help with setup on the day of the shower, which seemed like a reasonable compromise. Gertrude agreed, but she seemed irritated about it. She kept texting me questions about the shower details and making suggestions for changes. I tried to be polite, but some of her ideas were expensive or didn't match what we had already planned. The baby shower was scheduled for last Sunday at a community center near our house. We had invited about 30 people, mostly family and close friends. My mom had arranged for catering, and Janet had organized games and activities. Everything was set up by 11 in the morning, and guests were supposed to arrive at noon. Gertrude showed up at 10:30 with her own set of decorations. She started rearranging the tables and replacing our centerpieces with one she had made. When Amy asked her to check with me first, Gertrude said she was just trying to help make everything perfect. She had also brought a cake that she ordered separately, even though we already had one from a bakery that Amy had chosen. When guests started arriving, Gertrude positioned herself at the entrance like she was the host. She was greeting people and directing them where to sit. She had also brought a guest book that she wanted everyone to sign, which was separate from the one we had already set up. Several of my friends asked me privately if Gertrude was co-hosting the shower because her behavior was confusing. The most problematic part happened when it was time to open gifts. Gertrude had brought a large wrapped box and insisted that I open her gift first. Inside was a car seat, which was actually something we needed. However, she had spent over $300 on a premium model without asking us about brands or features we preferred. She announced loudly that this was her gift as the baby's aunt and that she had researched the safest options available. The issue was that my parents had also bought us a car seat as their main gift. They had coordinated with us ahead of time and bought the exact model we had researched and chosen. Now we had 2 expensive car seats, and Gertrude's was not the one we wanted. When I thanked her but mentioned that we had already received a car seat, she looked hurt and said she had spent weeks researching the best option. Gertrude then started making comments during the gift opening about how she couldn't wait to take the baby places and how she was planning to set up a nursery at her house. She talked about buying a crib and changing table so the baby could stay overnight regularly. She mentioned specific days of the week when she would be available to babysit and asked me to consider her schedule when making appointments. Several guests looked uncomfortable during these comments because Gertrude was talking like she was going to be a primary caregiver rather than an occasional babysitter. My sister Amy tried to change the subject, but Gertrude kept bringing the conversation back to her plans for the baby. The breaking point came when Gertrude started talking about the delivery. She said she wanted to be in the waiting room when I went into labor and that she hoped to be one of the first people to hold the baby. She mentioned that she had already requested time off work for the week of my due date. Blake and I had discussed that we wanted to keep the birth experience private, with just our parents visiting after the baby was born. When I mentioned that we were planning to limit visitors initially, Gertrude became visibly upset. She said that as the baby's aunt, she deserved to be there for such an important moment. She started talking about how she had been looking forward to this for months and had already made arrangements with her job. The situation got worse when Gertrude started crying and saying that I was trying to keep her away from her nephew or niece. She said that Blake's family had always been close and that I was destroying their relationships. Several guests were staring at this point, and the atmosphere in the room became tense. Blake tried to calm Gertrude down, but she was getting more emotional. She said that she had raised Blake and that this baby was like her own grandchild. She accused me of being selfish and not understanding family dynamics. She said that she had sacrificed years of her life taking care of Blake and that she deserved to be involved in raising his child. Janet tried to intervene, but Gertrude was beyond reasoning. She said that she wasn't going to let me push her out of Blake's life like I had done with other family activities. She brought up the wedding planning and the bridal shower, saying that I had a pattern of excluding her from important events. At this point, several guests were clearly uncomfortable and some were starting to leave. My sister Amy suggested that we take a break, but Gertrude was not done talking. She said that she was going to be part of this baby's life whether I liked it or not. She said that Blake would never choose between me and his sister, and that I needed to accept that she was family. Blake finally told Gertrude that she needed to leave. She looked shocked and said that he was proving her point about me changing him. She gathered her things and left, but not before saying that this conversation wasn't over. The rest of the shower continued, but the mood was definitely affected by what had happened. After the guests left, Blake and I talked about Gertrude's behavior. He admitted that she had been more intense lately but said that he hadn't realized how uncomfortable she was making me. He agreed that we needed to set clearer boundaries before the baby arrived. We decided that he would talk to her about appropriate expectations for her role as an aunt. The problem is that Gertrude has been calling and texting both of us constantly since Sunday. She's been sending long messages about how hurt she is and how unfair we're being. She's also been involving Janet, who is trying to mediate but doesn't fully understand why we're upset. Gertrude keeps saying that she just wants to be a good aunt and that we're overreacting to her excitement about the baby. Blake had a phone conversation with Gertrude on Wednesday where he tried to explain our perspective. He told her that we appreciate her enthusiasm but that we need to make our own decisions about childcare and visitors. Gertrude became defensive and said that she had been planning to help with the baby for months. She said that she had been saving money to buy baby supplies and that she had been reading parenting books to prepare. The conversation ended with Gertrude saying that she felt like we were punishing her for caring too much. She said that she had always been there for Blake and that she couldn't understand why we were pushing her away now. Blake tried to reassure her that we weren't pushing her away, but that we needed her to respect our boundaries as parents. I'm now worried about how this is going to affect our relationship with Blake's family. Janet seems to think that we should be more understanding of Gertrude's excitement, but I don't think Janet fully grasps how overwhelming Gertrude's behavior has been. Blake is caught in the middle, trying to maintain peace with his sister while also supporting my need for boundaries. The baby is due in less than 2 months, and I'm concerned about what's going to happen when the baby arrives. Gertrude has made it clear that she expects to be very involved, and I'm not sure how to manage her expectations without causing more family drama. Blake is supportive of me, but I can tell that he feels guilty about disappointing his sister. I need advice on how to handle this situation. Are we being unreasonable by wanting to set boundaries? How can we manage Gertrude's expectations without destroying family relationships? I want the baby to have a relationship with Blake's family, but I also need to feel comfortable with the level of involvement from extended family members. Update 1: I wanted to update everyone on what's happened since my original post. Thank you for all the comments and support. Unfortunately, things have gotten much worse with Gertrude, and I'm not sure how to move forward. The week after I posted, Blake had another conversation with Gertrude where he tried to establish clearer boundaries. He explained that while we wanted her to be part of the baby's life, we needed her to respect our decisions as parents. He specifically addressed her assumptions about regular babysitting and overnight stays. Gertrude seemed to accept what he was saying during the conversation, but her behavior afterwards suggested otherwise. 2 days later, Gertrude showed up at our house unannounced with more baby supplies. She had bought a bassinet, claiming that she found it on sale and couldn't pass up the deal. When I mentioned that we already had a bassinet, she said we could use hers as a backup or keep it at her house for when the baby visited. She spent about an hour rearranging our nursery and moving around furniture we had already positioned. What made this visit particularly uncomfortable was that Gertrude started taking measurements of our nursery and making notes about the layout. When I asked what she was doing, she said she wanted to set up her spare room to match our nursery so the baby would feel familiar in both environments. She had already ordered paint in the same color as our nursery walls and was planning to buy identical furniture. The following week, Gertrude started calling my doctor's office trying to get information about my pregnancy. She told them she was the baby's aunt and that she needed to know my due date and delivery plans because she was going to be helping with childcare. The receptionist called me to verify, and I had to explain that Gertrude was not authorized to receive any information about my medical care. I also had to specifically request that my information not be shared with anyone except Blake and my emergency contacts. Gertrude became upset when she found out that I had blocked her access to my medical information. She called Blake at work, crying and saying that she felt like we were treating her like a stranger. She said that in her mind, she was going to be like a second mother to the baby and that she needed to be informed about important medical decisions. Blake tried to explain that medical information was private, but Gertrude kept insisting that family members should have access to everything. The situation escalated when Gertrude started contacting our other family members to get them involved. She called my mother-in-law Janet and complained that we were being secretive and excluding her from important pregnancy milestones. She also called Blake's Aunt Rebecca, 52F, and his cousin David, 29M, telling them that I was trying to keep the baby away from Blake's side of the family. These family members started calling Blake to ask what was going on. Most of them were confused because Gertrude had presented the situation as if we were completely cutting her out of our lives. Blake had to spend several phone calls explaining that we weren't trying to exclude Gertrude, but that we needed her to respect normal boundaries that any parents would set. The most concerning incident happened 2 weeks ago when Gertrude showed up at my workplace. I work as a dental hygienist at a family practice, and Gertrude came in pretending to be a new patient. She had made an appointment under a fake name and specifically requested me as her hygienist. During the appointment, she started asking about my pregnancy and my birth plan. She wanted to know which hospital I was planning to deliver at and whether I had chosen a pediatrician yet. When I asked her why she was asking these questions, she said she wanted to make sure she could find us when I went into labor. She explained that she had been having trouble sleeping because she was worried about missing the birth. She said she had been checking with Blake every day to make sure I hadn't started having contractions, but she wanted to have backup plans in case she couldn't reach him. I told Gertrude that her behavior was inappropriate and that she needed to leave. She became upset and said that she was just trying to be prepared to help. She said that she had been planning for months to take care of me and the baby after delivery, and that she didn't understand why I was being so secretive about everything. After Gertrude left my workplace, I called Blake immediately. He was horrified that she had shown up at my job and agreed that her behavior was crossing major boundaries. He called Gertrude that evening and told her that she was not allowed to contact me at work or show up at my workplace again. He also told her that she needed to stop involving other family members in our personal business. Gertrude's response was to send both of us a long email explaining her perspective. She wrote that she felt like we were punishing her for loving the baby too much. She said that she had been dreaming about being an aunt for years and that she had been making plans to help raise the baby since we announced the pregnancy. She said that she understood we were the parents, but that she expected to be involved in major decisions about the baby's care. In the email, Gertrude also revealed that she had been talking to a lawyer about grandparents' rights. She said that she had been researching whether aunts had any legal rights to access their nieces and nephews. She said she wasn't planning to take legal action, but that she wanted to understand her options if we continued to exclude her from the baby's life. This legal threat was the final straw for Blake. He called Gertrude and told her that threatening legal action was completely unacceptable and that it proved she didn't understand appropriate boundaries. He said that if she continued to behave this way, we would have to consider limiting her contact with us entirely. Gertrude became hysterical during this phone call. She said that Blake was choosing me over his own family and that she couldn't believe he was threatening to cut her out of his life. She said that she had sacrificed everything to take care of him when they were younger and that she deserved to be part of his family now. She accused me of manipulating Blake and turning him against his sister. The call ended with Gertrude hanging up on Blake, but she called back multiple times over the next few hours. Blake eventually stopped answering, and she started leaving voicemails. In the voicemails, she alternated between apologizing and making more accusations. She said that she was going to fight for her relationship with Blake and that she wouldn't let me destroy their family. Since then, Gertrude has been trying to contact us through other family members. She's been calling Janet daily, crying and asking her to intervene. She's also been contacting Blake's other relatives and asking them to talk to us on her behalf. Most of these family members are confused about the situation and don't understand why Gertrude is so upset. Janet has been trying to mediate, but she doesn't fully understand the extent of Gertrude's inappropriate behavior. She keeps saying that Gertrude is just excited about the baby and that we should be more patient with her. Janet thinks that we should sit down with Gertrude and work out a compromise that makes everyone happy. The problem is that Gertrude doesn't seem to understand that there are certain boundaries that can't be negotiated. She still believes that she should have access to my medical information and that she should be involved in major decisions about the baby's care. She doesn't seem to grasp that Blake and I are the parents and that we have the right to make decisions without consulting extended family members. I'm now 37 weeks pregnant and due any day. The stress from this situation is affecting my health, and my doctor has told me that I need to minimize stress during these final weeks. Blake and I have decided that we're not going to tell anyone except our parents when I go into labor. We're also planning to limit hospital visitors to just our immediate family. We've had to change our birth plan because we're worried about Gertrude showing up at the hospital uninvited. We've informed the hospital staff that Gertrude is not authorized to receive information about my admission or delivery. We've also asked them to not allow her to visit even if she claims to be family. The situation has put strain on Blake's relationship with his entire family. Some relatives think we're being too harsh with Gertrude, while others are starting to understand that her behavior is inappropriate. Blake is struggling with the guilt of having to choose between supporting me and maintaining peace with his sister. I'm worried about what's going to happen after the baby is born. Gertrude has made it clear that she's not going to accept the boundaries we've set, and I'm concerned that she'll continue to escalate her behavior. Blake is fully supportive of me, but I know that this situation is causing him a lot of stress too. At this point, I'm not sure if there's any way to have a normal relationship with Gertrude. Her behavior has gone far beyond normal excitement about becoming an aunt, and she doesn't seem to understand that her actions are inappropriate. I'm starting to think that we might need to consider limiting her contact with us entirely, at least until she can demonstrate that she respects our boundaries. Update 2: I gave birth to our daughter Emma 6 weeks ago, and the situation with Gertrude has become even more complicated. I wanted to update everyone on what's happened since my last post. Emma was born healthy after a relatively smooth delivery. Blake and I were able to have the peaceful birth experience we wanted, with just our parents visiting us at the hospital. We had informed the hospital staff about Gertrude's behavior, and they were excellent about protecting our privacy. We didn't announce Emma's birth on social media immediately because we wanted to enjoy some quiet time as a new family. We called our parents and my sister Amy, 26F, to let them know Emma had arrived, and we asked them to keep the news private for a few days. Unfortunately, Janet told Gertrude about Emma's birth within hours of receiving our call. Janet said she didn't realize we wanted to keep the news private from Gertrude specifically. She thought we just didn't want public announcements on social media. This misunderstanding led to the first major incident. Gertrude showed up at the hospital about 4 hours after Emma was born. She arrived with balloons, flowers, and a large gift bag. She went directly to the maternity ward and tried to get information about my room number from the nurses. When they told her that I had requested no visitors except approved family members, she became upset and insisted that she was Emma's aunt. The nurses called security when Gertrude refused to leave. She was eventually removed from the hospital, but not before making a scene in the waiting area. She was crying and telling other families that her own family was keeping her away from her niece. Several other patients and visitors witnessed this incident. Blake received a call from hospital security informing him about Gertrude's visit. He was shocked that she had shown up so soon after Emma's birth. He called his mother Janet to ask why she had told Gertrude about the delivery. Janet was apologetic and said she hadn't realized that Gertrude would try to visit immediately. When we returned home from the hospital 2 days later, Gertrude was waiting in our driveway. She had been sitting in her car for several hours, according to our neighbor. She approached us as we were getting Emma out of the car seat and asked to hold her niece. She said she had been waiting to meet Emma and that she couldn't wait any longer. Blake told Gertrude that this wasn't a good time because we were just getting home and needed to settle in. Gertrude became emotional and said that she had been patient for months and that she deserved to meet Emma. She said that she had brought gifts and had been planning this moment for a long time. The confrontation continued in our driveway with Emma crying in her car seat. Gertrude kept insisting that she just wanted to hold Emma for a few minutes and that she would leave afterward. Blake tried to explain that we needed to establish a routine first, but Gertrude wasn't listening to reason. Finally, Blake told Gertrude that she needed to leave and that we would contact her when we were ready for visitors. Gertrude became hysterical and accused Blake of letting me control his decisions. She said that she had rights as Emma's aunt and that we couldn't keep her away indefinitely. The situation escalated when Gertrude tried to take Emma's car seat from Blake. She said that if we wouldn't let her hold Emma, she would just look at her for a minute. Blake had to physically prevent Gertrude from taking the car seat, and our neighbor called the police because the argument was getting loud and disruptive. The police arrived and asked Gertrude to leave our property. She was crying and trying to explain to the officers that she just wanted to see her niece. The officers were polite but firm that she needed to respect our wishes as parents. They escorted her to her car and watched her drive away. After this incident, Blake called Gertrude and told her that her behavior was completely unacceptable. He said that showing up uninvited and trying to take Emma was crossing a major line. He told her that she would not be welcome to visit until she could demonstrate that she respected our boundaries as parents. Gertrude's response was to start a campaign to turn Blake's family against us. She called every relative she could think of and told them that we were keeping Emma away from the family. She said that I was manipulating Blake and that she was being unfairly punished for loving her niece too much. Several family members called Blake to ask what was going on. Gertrude had told them that we were refusing to let anyone meet Emma and that we were being unreasonable about visits. She had presented the situation as if we were completely isolating ourselves from Blake's family. Blake had to spend hours on the phone explaining the real situation to various relatives. He had to describe Gertrude's inappropriate behavior over the past several months and explain why we had set boundaries. Most family members were understanding once they heard the full story, but some still thought we should be more accommodating. The situation got worse when Gertrude started posting about Emma on social media. She had gotten photos of Emma from Janet and was sharing them on her Facebook page with captions about her beautiful niece. She was writing posts about how much she loved Emma and how excited she was to watch her grow up. The problem was that Gertrude was posting these photos without our permission and was making it seem like she had an active relationship with Emma. Some of Gertrude's friends were commenting on the photos asking when they could meet Emma, and Gertrude was responding as if she was regularly babysitting. Blake asked Gertrude to remove the photos from her social media, but she refused. She said that she had the right to share photos of her niece and that we were being ridiculous about privacy. She said that she was proud of Emma and wanted to show her off to her friends. This led to another confrontation where Blake had to threaten to report Gertrude's post to Facebook for sharing photos of a minor without parental consent. Gertrude eventually removed the photos, but she was angry about being forced to take them down. The most recent incident happened last week when Gertrude showed up at Emma's pediatrician appointment. She had somehow found out when and where the appointment was scheduled and was waiting in the parking lot when we arrived. She approached us as we were walking into the building and asked if she could come in with us. Blake told Gertrude that she couldn't attend Emma's medical appointments without our permission. Gertrude said that she just wanted to hear how Emma was doing and that she wouldn't interfere with the appointment. She said that she had been worried about Emma's health and wanted to make sure she was developing properly. When we refused to let her come in, Gertrude became upset and said that we were being cruel by keeping her away from Emma. She said that she had been researching infant development and had questions for the pediatrician about Emma's care. She said that as Emma's aunt, she should be involved in medical decisions. The pediatrician's office had to call security to escort Gertrude from the building. She was crying and trying to explain to the security guard that she just wanted to know if her niece was healthy. The incident was embarrassing and stressful, especially since Emma was getting her vaccinations that day. After this incident, Blake and I decided that we need to take more serious action. We've started documenting all of Gertrude's inappropriate behavior, including the hospital incident, showing up uninvited, posting photos without permission, and appearing at medical appointments. We've also spoken with a lawyer about our options. The lawyer explained that while Gertrude doesn't have legal rights to access Emma, her behavior could potentially be considered harassment. He suggested that we send Gertrude a formal letter requesting that she stop her inappropriate behavior and respect our boundaries. We're also considering applying for a restraining order if Gertrude continues to escalate her behavior. The lawyer said that her pattern of showing up uninvited and refusing to respect our boundaries could meet the criteria for harassment. Blake is struggling with the idea of taking legal action against his sister. He still loves Gertrude and wants to maintain a family relationship, but he's starting to understand that her behavior is not normal. He's also worried about how this will affect his relationship with his mother Janet. Janet is still trying to mediate between us and Gertrude. She keeps saying that Gertrude is just excited about Emma and that we should be more patient. Janet doesn't seem to understand that Gertrude's behavior is inappropriate and potentially dangerous. The stress from this situation is affecting my ability to bond with Emma and enjoy being a new mother. I'm constantly worried about Gertrude showing up unexpectedly or causing more scenes. Blake is supportive, but I can tell that he's also stressed about the family conflict. We've decided that we're not going to attend any family gatherings where Gertrude will be present until she demonstrates that she can respect our boundaries. This means missing some important family events, but we don't feel comfortable exposing Emma to Gertrude's unpredictable behavior. I never imagined that becoming a mother would involve this kind of family drama. Gertrude's behavior has gone far beyond normal excitement about becoming an aunt, and she doesn't seem to understand that her actions are inappropriate and harmful to our family. Update 3. This will be my final update about the situation with Gertrude. Emma is now 4 months old, and we've had to make some difficult decisions about our family relationships. After my last update, Gertrude's behavior continued to escalate despite our attempts to set boundaries. The formal letter from our lawyer requesting that she respect our privacy had no effect on her actions. If anything, it seemed to make her more determined to be involved in Emma's life. 3 weeks after receiving the letter, Gertrude showed up at our house at 6 in the morning. She was crying and said that she had been awake all night thinking about Emma. She said that she couldn't understand why we were being so cruel to her and that she just wanted to be a good aunt. Blake answered the door and tried to talk to Gertrude calmly. He explained that we weren't trying to be cruel, but that we needed her to respect our decisions as parents. Gertrude became hysterical and said that she had been planning to help raise Emma for months and that we were destroying her dreams. The conversation went in circles for about 30 minutes. Gertrude kept insisting that she had rights as Emma's aunt and that we were being unreasonable. Blake tried to explain that being an aunt didn't give her the right to make decisions about Emma's care or to show up uninvited whenever she wanted. Gertrude eventually left, but she came back later that day with Janet. Janet had been trying to mediate between us for months, but this time she seemed more frustrated with our position. She said that Gertrude was family and that we needed to find a way to include her in Emma's life. Janet suggested that we set up a regular visiting schedule where Gertrude could see Emma once a week for a few hours. She said that this would give Gertrude the access she wanted while still respecting our boundaries. The problem was that Gertrude immediately started making additional demands about the visiting schedule. Gertrude wanted to take Emma places by herself, including to her house for overnight visits. She said that she had set up a nursery in her spare room and that Emma should get used to staying there. She also wanted to be involved in decisions about Emma's feeding schedule, sleep routine, and medical care. When we explained that we weren't comfortable with overnight visits or Gertrude making parenting decisions, she became upset again. She said that we were treating her like a stranger and that she deserved more involvement in Emma's life. She said that she had been researching child development and had ideas about how to best care for Emma. The situation reached a breaking point when Gertrude started following us around town. She would show up at the grocery store, the park, and other places where we took Emma. She said that she was just hoping to spend time with her niece, but her behavior was making us uncomfortable. The most concerning incident happened when Gertrude followed us to a restaurant where we were meeting my parents for lunch. She sat at a table across from us and kept staring at Emma. When my father asked her to leave, she said that she had the right to be in a public place and that she wasn't bothering anyone. Gertrude spent the entire lunch watching our table and taking photos of Emma with her phone. When we asked her to stop taking photos, she said that she was just capturing memories of her niece. She said that since we weren't allowing her to spend time with Emma, she had to find other ways to feel connected to her. This incident made us realize that Gertrude's behavior was not going to improve with time or patience. Her obsession with Emma was becoming more intense, and she seemed to believe that she had parental rights rather than typical aunt privileges. Blake and I decided that we needed to apply for a restraining order. We gathered all the documentation we had collected about Gertrude's behavior, including the hospital incident, showing up uninvited, posting photos without permission, appearing at medical appointments, and following us around town. The restraining order was granted based on the pattern of harassment and Gertrude's refusal to respect our boundaries. The order requires Gertrude to stay at least 500 feet away from us, Emma, our house, and our workplaces. She's also prohibited from contacting us directly or through third parties. Gertrude's reaction to the restraining order was to have a complete breakdown. She called Blake crying and screaming that we were destroying the family. She said that she had done nothing wrong and that we were being vindictive. She accused me of manipulating Blake and turning him against his own sister. Janet was also upset about the restraining order. She said that we had gone too far and that Gertrude was just excited about Emma. Janet couldn't understand why we couldn't find a way to work things out without involving the legal system. She said that we were breaking up the family over something that could be resolved with communication. The restraining order has created a division in Blake's family. Some relatives support our decision and understand that Gertrude's behavior was inappropriate. Others think we overreacted and that we should have been more patient with Gertrude's adjustment to being an aunt. Blake's aunt Rebecca, 52F, has been particularly critical of our decision. She said that Gertrude had always been emotional and that we should have made allowances for her personality. Rebecca said that Gertrude had sacrificed a lot to help raise Blake and that we owed her more consideration. The family division has been difficult for Blake. He loves his sister and never wanted things to reach this point, but he also recognizes that Gertrude's behavior was not normal. He's been going to counseling to help him process his feelings about the situation. Gertrude has mostly respected the restraining order, but she's found ways to circumvent it. She's been sending gifts for Emma to Janet's house and asking Janet to deliver them to us. She's also been writing letters to Emma that she wants us to save for when Emma is older. We've had to ask Janet to stop delivering gifts or messages from Gertrude because it violates the spirit of the restraining order. Janet was upset about this request because she feels like she's being forced to choose between her children and her granddaughter. The situation has stabilized somewhat over the past month. Gertrude hasn't violated the restraining order directly, and we haven't had any unexpected encounters with her. However, the family relationships remain strained, and we're not sure if they can be repaired. Blake and I have decided that we're going to focus on raising Emma and building our own family traditions. We're not going to attend family gatherings where Gertrude might be present, and we're limiting our contact with relatives who don't respect our boundaries. This experience has taught us that sometimes protecting your family requires making difficult decisions that others might not understand. Gertrude's behavior was not normal excitement about becoming an aunt, and we had to take action to protect Emma and ourselves. Emma is thriving despite all the family drama. She's a happy, healthy baby who is reaching all her developmental milestones. Blake and I are enjoying parenthood and focusing on creating a peaceful environment for our daughter. We hope that someday Gertrude will get the help she needs to understand appropriate boundaries, but we're not going to compromise Emma's safety or our family's peace while waiting for that to happen. The restraining order remains in place, and we're prepared to take additional legal action if necessary. This situation has been one of the most challenging experiences of our lives, but it's also shown us how important it is to prioritize our immediate family's well-being over extended family expectations. We're moving forward with our lives and focusing on the positive aspects of being new parents. Now let's move to the next story. Story 2. My wife demanded I give half my daughter's college fund to my stepson. When I refused, she went behind my back and did something illegal that destroyed our marriage. I, 42M, have been married to my wife Pamela, 39F, for 6 years. We each have a child from previous relationships, my daughter Dorothy, 17F, and her son Ethan, 19M. I've always been laser focused on saving for Dorothy's future. My own parents struggled financially when I was growing up, and I vowed to give my child a better start in life. When Dorothy was born, I was just 25 and working an entry-level job. Her mother, Jessica, and I weren't married and our relationship was rocky. Despite the challenges, I opened a college savings account for Dorothy when she was just a month old. Those early years were tough. Jessica and I split up when Dorothy was 2, and I became a full-time single dad. I worked long hours at my main job and picked up weekend shifts bartending to make ends meet. Every month, no matter how tight money was, I put something into Dorothy's college fund. Sometimes it was only $20, but I was determined to keep it growing. As Dorothy got older, I explained to her why I was working so much. I wanted her to understand the value of education and planning for the future. We'd sit at the kitchen table, counting the coins from my tip jar to add to her fund. It became our special ritual. By the time I met Pamela, when Dorothy was 11, there was a substantial amount saved up. Pamela was impressed by my financial discipline. She told me about her own struggles with money. Her ex-husband had racked up a lot of debt in her name, leaving her in a precarious position when they divorced. Because of this, Pamela was wary of combining finances. We agreed to keep our money separate, which worked well for us. Pamela's son Ethan was 13 when we got married. He's a good kid, but we've never quite clicked the way I'd hoped. He has a close relationship with his dad, who he sees every other weekend. I've always felt more like a friendly uncle to Ethan than a stepfather. Still, I've tried to be supportive and include him in family activities. Over the years, I noticed that Pamela wasn't really saving for Ethan's future. She makes good money as a real estate agent, but she tends to spend it on designer clothes, fancy vacations, and redecorating the house. I gently suggested a few times that she might want to start a college fund for Ethan, but she always brushed it off, saying there was plenty of time. Dorothy is graduating high school next year and starting to look at colleges. She's always been an exceptional student, taking AP classes, involved in multiple extracurriculars, and volunteering at the local animal shelter. Her hard work has paid off, and she's been accepted to several prestigious universities. Last week, I sat down with Dorothy to go over her college fund. I wanted her to understand exactly what resources she had available as she made her decision. When I showed her the balance, her eyes went wide. "Dad, is this real?" she asked. I nodded, feeling a surge of pride. There's enough to cover tuition and most living expenses at her top choice school for all 4 years. Dorothy threw her arms around me, crying happy tears. "I can't believe you did this for me," she said. I got choked up too, remembering all those years of scrimping and saving. "You're worth every penny," I told her. That evening, I mentioned the conversation to Pamela over dinner. I was still riding high on Dorothy's excitement and wanted to share the moment. But Pamela's reaction caught me completely off guard. She got quiet for a moment, then said, "What about Ethan? How is he supposed to pay for college?" I was confused. "I thought you were handling Ethan's college plans," I said. Pamela shook her head. "I haven't really saved anything," she admitted. "I always thought we'd figure something out when the time came." Then she dropped a bombshell. "We should split Dorothy's fund between both kids," she said. "It's only fair." I was stunned. "That money is for Dorothy," I said firmly. "I've been saving it for her since before I even met you and Ethan." Pamela's eyes flashed with anger. "So you're saying you don't consider Ethan to be your child too? We're supposed to be a family." I tried to explain that it wasn't about loving Ethan less, but about honoring a commitment I'd made to Dorothy long ago. Pamela wasn't hearing it. She accused me of favoritism and said I was setting Ethan up for failure by denying him equal support. The argument escalated quickly. Pamela brought up every time she felt I'd treated Dorothy differently than Ethan, while I countered with examples of how I've tried to be a good stepfather. We went round and round until Ethan came home and heard us shouting. When he realized what we were fighting about, Ethan got upset too. He said he always suspected I didn't really consider him family, and this proved it. I tried to explain, but he stormed off to his room. Dorothy overheard some of the argument as well. Later, she came to me in tears, offering to split her fund with Ethan. It broke my heart to see her willing to sacrifice her dreams out of guilt. I assured her that none of this was her fault and that the money was hers, period. Things have been incredibly tense at home since then. Pamela is giving me the cold shoulder and making snide comments about my real family. Ethan is avoiding me completely. Dorothy is walking on eggshells, clearly stressed by the whole situation. Pamela insists that I need to make this right by agreeing to split the money. But I don't see how taking away half of Dorothy's future to give to Ethan is the right thing to do. This fund represents 17 years of sacrifice and planning. It feels wrong to just hand half of it over, especially when Pamela had the same opportunity to save but chose not to. I suggested we look into other options for Ethan: scholarships, financial aid, maybe starting a community college. Pamela says that's not good enough and accused me of trying to give Ethan lesser opportunities. I love Ethan, I really do. But I came into his life when he was already a teenager. I see my role as more of a mentor than a dad. He has a father who he's close with. I'm not trying to replace anyone. It's worth noting that Ethan is an average student and hasn't shown much interest in college. He's talked about maybe going to trade school to become an electrician. I think that's a great path and I'd be happy to support him in that. But Pamela is insistent that he needs a 4-year degree, even though Ethan himself seems unsure. I feel like I'm being painted as the bad guy for not wanting to jeopardize my daughter's future that I've worked so hard to secure. But maybe I'm not seeing this clearly? The whole situation has me questioning everything. AITA for refusing to split the college fund? Update 1. It's been about a month since my original post, and unfortunately, things have only gotten worse. I really appreciate all the feedback and support from everyone. It's given me a lot to think about. The tension at home continued to build after my last post. Pamela and I were barely speaking, just coldly coexisting in the same space. Ethan was clearly upset and started avoiding me completely. Dorothy was stressed out and I could tell she felt caught in the middle, trying to keep the peace. I tried to have a calm discussion with Pamela about Ethan's future plans and how we could support him without touching Dorothy's fund. But every conversation quickly devolved into accusations and rehashing old arguments. Pamela kept bringing up times she felt I'd favored Dorothy, while I pointed out all the ways I've tried to be there for Ethan. We were just talking in circles. Things came to a head last week. I came home from work early, hoping to catch Dorothy before her shift at the animal shelter. Instead, I found Pamela and Ethan sitting at the kitchen table with a bunch of papers spread out. When they saw me, they both jumped like they'd been caught doing something wrong. It turns out, my instincts were right. They had gone behind my back and applied for several credit cards and personal loans in my name, using my personal information. Their plan was to use this money to fund Ethan's education since I refused to help. I was absolutely angry. Not only was this a huge breach of trust, but it could have seriously damaged my credit and financial future. I confronted them immediately. Pamela tried to justify it, saying desperate times call for desperate measures and that I had forced her hand by being selfish. Ethan looked ashamed but didn't say much. I told Pamela this was completely unacceptable and possibly illegal. I made it clear I would be canceling all the cards and loans immediately. Then I told her I needed some time to think and left to stay with my brother for a few days. While I was gone, I did a lot of soul searching. I thought back to the early days of my relationship with Pamela. We bonded over our experiences as single parents and our determination to give our kids better lives. I remembered how impressed I'd been by her independence and how she'd overcome her financial troubles after her divorce. But I also realized that there had been red flags I'd ignored. Pamela had always been a bit impulsive with money, justifying expensive purchases as treating herself after years of struggle. She'd make comments about how Dorothy was lucky to have her college taken care of, but never took steps to save for Ethan. I thought about my relationship with Ethan over the years. I genuinely care about him, but I realized I had been trying to force a father-son bond that just wasn't there. He already has a dad who he's close with. My attempts to be a father figure were probably confusing for him and created unrealistic expectations. After a few days, I returned home and asked Pamela for a private conversation. I told her that her actions were a deal-breaker for me and that I wanted a divorce. She burst into tears and begged me to reconsider, saying she only did it because she was desperate to help her son. But I held firm. I explained that this wasn't just about the credit card incident. It was about a pattern of behavior, disrespecting my boundaries, trying to guilt me into things, and now potentially committing fraud. I told her I couldn't stay in a relationship where there was no trust. Pamela's reaction swung from pleading to anger. She accused me of never really accepting Ethan, of always putting Dorothy first. She said I was throwing away our marriage over money. But to me, it wasn't about the money, it was about the breach of trust and the realization that we had very different values when it came to family and finances. After our conversation, I sat down with Dorothy and Ethan separately to explain the situation. Dorothy was upset but said she understood. She admitted that she had been uncomfortable with Pamela's behavior for a while but hadn't wanted to cause problems. I assured her that none of this was her fault and that her college fund was safe. My conversation with Ethan was harder. He apologized for his part in the credit card scheme and admitted he had felt pressured by his mom to go along with it. We had an honest talk about his future plans. It turns out, he's really interested in becoming an electrician but felt pushed towards a 4-year college by his mom. I told him I thought trade school was a great option and offered to help him research programs. So now I'm in the process of separating from Pamela. I'm staying with my brother for now while we sort out the logistics. Dorothy will be coming with me, of course. I've assured Ethan that even though his mom and I are splitting up, I still care about him and want to maintain a relationship if he's open to it. It's been a difficult and emotional time for everyone involved. I'm trying to take things one day at a time and focus on being there for both kids as we navigate this new reality. I know there will be challenges ahead, but I'm cautiously optimistic that this is the right decision for everyone in the long run. Update 2. It's been about 6 months since my last update, and I wanted to share some developments. The divorce from Pamela was finalized last month. It was a difficult process, but ultimately I think it was for the best. During the divorce proceedings, I learned that Pamela had been hiding some significant debt. It turns out her lavish spending habits had caught up with her, and she was in pretty severe financial straits. This sheds some light on why she was so desperate to get her hands on Dorothy's college fund. I'm relieved I stood my ground and protected that money. The revelation about Pamela's debt brought back memories of my own parents' financial struggles. I remembered the constant stress in our household, the arguments over bills, the shame of having our electricity cut off more than once. It reinforced for me why I had been so determined to create financial stability for Dorothy. Dorothy has started her freshman year at her dream school. She's studying marine biology and absolutely loving it. She calls me every Sunday to share stories about her classes, her new friends, and her part-time job at the campus aquarium. Hearing the excitement in her voice makes all the years of saving and recent drama worth it. There have been some bumps in the road. She had a hard time adjusting to her roommate at first, and she's finding her biology classes more challenging than expected. But she's facing these obstacles with determination and a positive attitude. I'm incredibly proud of her resilience. As for Ethan, our relationship has actually improved since the divorce. Without the pressure of trying to force a father-son dynamic, we've developed a more natural mentor-mentee rapport. He's been working full-time at a local garage and taking some classes at community college. Ethan and I have been meeting up every couple of weeks for lunch. He's opening up to me more about his hopes and fears for the future. I've been helping him budget and save money, and he seems to really appreciate the guidance. We've been researching electrician apprenticeship programs together, and he's getting excited about the possibilities. Pamela has been struggling since the divorce. She had to downsize significantly and take on a second job to manage her debt. She's tried reaching out to me a few times, alternating between apologies and accusations. I've maintained firm boundaries and only communicate with her when absolutely necessary regarding divorce matters. There was a difficult moment last month when Pamela showed up at my new apartment unannounced, clearly intoxicated. She was crying and begging me to take her back, saying she'd realized her mistakes. It was hard to see her in that state, but I stood firm and called her sister to come pick her up. I hope she gets the help she needs, for Ethan's sake if nothing else. I've started dating again recently. Nothing serious yet, but it's nice to put myself out there. I met a woman named Rachel at a local book club. We've been on a few casual dates and enjoy each other's company. I'm being very cautious this time around, especially when it comes to blending families. Dorothy is my priority, and I won't let anyone compromise her well-being or future again. Speaking of Dorothy, she and Ethan have maintained a friendly relationship despite everything that happened. They text occasionally and even met up for coffee when Dorothy was home for fall break. It warms my heart to see them supporting each other. Overall, life has settled into a new normal. It's not always easy, there are still moments of tension and sadness. But I feel like I'm on the right path. I'm focused on being the best dad I can be to Dorothy and a supportive friend to Ethan. I'm also working on rebuilding my own life post-divorce, rediscovering old hobbies and making new friends. The whole experience has really driven home the importance of open communication and shared values in a relationship. It's also reinforced my belief in the power of planning for the future and sticking to your principles, even when it's difficult. As I watch Dorothy thrive in college, I'm grateful that I trusted my instincts and protected her future.